Hola, hola, everybody. Welcome back to High on Feminism. We have another great episode here today. I am sitting with the CEO and founder of BF Media Lounge, Anne-Cécile Ville. Welcome, Anne-Cécile.
Hi, Jess.
Hi,
nice
how are you doing? Good. I'm happy to have you here. I am excited to have you on. We have a lot of things to talk about, obviously. Your brand, BF Media Lounge, is not just I would say it's like a women's empowerment and positivity brand, but you're doing a lot. You are an author. You just wrote your book, Reboot Your Story. This is your second book.
Correct.
You have some merch coming out.
Yeah.
We're going to get introduced to a fun little guy named Boris soon. And you're also a screenwriter and producer.
Yeah.
So first of all, tell me, how did you get into BF Media Lounge? What sort of sparked that initial idea?
Well, I was creatively stuck and in an industry that's very difficult for women in general. As a screenwriter, I didn't feel I was in charge of my stories, and I found it difficult to get them produced because initially I was quite happy just being a screenwriter at home, writing stories in my pajamas. So it's a big leap what I'm doing now to what I was originally. But it came to a point where I had to choose, like either that's it, I let it go, I do something else, or I'm going to try to make something sustainable out of it and with meaning, because I love comedies, because I think comedies were a way to, it's not only funny, so it makes you feel good, but also it's a good way to share messages about society and thing. But Hollywood or anyone else out there didn't think it was worthwhile. It's not valued, and I think it's really strange because I think comedies are amazing. So anyway, I was stuck in that, and then through basically, I was also stuck, anxious, and riddled with self-doubt. So that was a setting.
Yeah.
And so I did what I knew best. I wrote a news story, and that became BF Media Lounge, which is a film and TV production company and a space where positivity leads. And healing starts with storytelling.
Yeah.
Because storytelling is the narratives at the start of everything, from your career to wars.
Yeah.
So they're really, really important.
And telling great stories is so important. And when you're talking about like comedy, there's sort of this like unspoken, rule in like the male mind that like women are not funny. And
another thing,
that is, I'm fucking hilarious, So I'm like, that is not true. Women are funny. And there are things that, we can do just as well as men. And honestly, I think the humor that we present sometimes is better than some of the, like penis jokes and stuff like that men do because they're like, oh, I need to show off my member,
It's so fun.
So I think it's great to kind of
too far.
Yeah, it's great to lead with comedy. My husband gets so frustrated when we watch movies together because I always want to watch a comedy and he wants to watch some like, guns blazing kind of thing. And I'm like, I just want to feel good and laugh and just like enjoy myself. And I don't want to like watch people die on screen.
No. It's all of that. It's true. And I think we have a different perspective as well. And I feel also like there's another thing about comedy is that it catches you out. When people are watching comedy, they're very relaxed. They're very open.
Yeah.
And it's
because they're ready to laugh and heal.
Correct. And heal, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, even with comedies, like I would watch comedies, and it may not be the greatest comedies, but I don't care. I'm looking for the best.
Yeah.
For the stuff that makes me laugh. I don't care if it's like silly. I don't care if it doesn't mean anything sometimes as well. So all of that makes it, I think, great.
Exactly. And I think too, like healing when it comes to comedy, they're especially American comedians, they always sort of like that dark humor where they're sort of like processing, maybe some trauma or something really crazy that happened to them. And they use comedy to sort of get through that. And I find that to be like such a therapeutic practice as well.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, obviously you have the Penis Conundrum, which is coming out in 2026, in terms of narratives and sort of like that dark humor sort of thing, like how do you kind of integrate that into your work that you're doing?
For me, it depends because I mean, this is something I talk about in the book. The brain doesn't tell the difference between what is real and what isn't.
Okay.
So with your narrative, it's very important what you say. Mm-hmm. So what do you say? Is it negative or positive? So, for example, if you are saying, well, I'm healing my trauma through comedy, but it's dark. Like I'm saying, oh, this is horrible. This is what happened. I'm laughing about how horrible it is. Or is it, okay, it was, but then, I make it like a good thing.
Yeah.
So it's always asked to see, what do I want to achieve with this, right? So it's just a fine line, because you always have to say, okay, this is what's happening in the world, for example, like women being, abused or whatever.
Yeah.
But then if you say, oh, this is what happens at the moment, and you spend the whole time talking about it, and then it feels really depressing because it feels there's no way out.
Yeah.
But if you say, okay, this is happening, but look, this is how
here's the positive.
Here's the positive. And this is what I'm trying to do, because the brain will process this. Because at the moment, and this is why storytelling is critical, and I think this work is so important, is that 65% of what we watch is negative.
Yeah.
Which explains everything. Like I said, everything is a narrative. It starts with a narrative, and then every day we sort of reaffirm it, right?
Yeah.
And also the brain is wired to see the negative.
Yeah.
So that's just for protection. It's nothing bad. It just protects us from, danger out there.
Yeah.
So for every negative thought, we need 3 to become neutral. And for 1 negative thought, we need 6 to become a positive. So with 65% being negative, we are the other way around.
Yeah.
So this is why every day we need to work on this narrative. So this is my perspective. And also the positive about that is that it's like training. You brush your teeth every day, you reaffirm it, and you can feel better about yourself as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me especially, kind of, there was obviously a very dark time in my life. I think everyone goes through that. And it kind of is like up to you and hopefully your support system around you to kind of like support you and bring you up out of that. And for a while, I was like, oh my God, bad shit is happening to me all the time. Like nothing is ever going to get better. It's always going to be bad. Da, 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 da. And it was like one thing after another after another. But then once I started sort of like thinking more in that positive mindset and trying to be more positive, and like, yes, I think that a lot of people are so anti like manifesting because they're like, oh, that's for like hippies who have stones. And it's like, no, manifesting is very strong. The universe hears what you're saying and what you're putting out into the world, and it's reflecting that back to you. So it's like when you're sitting in the mirror and you're telling yourself like, maybe you don't like the way you look, or maybe something terrible is happening in your life and you're like, nothing is ever going to get better. Like the universe is going to hear that, and then you're just going to get more shit piled on you. But if you're sitting there and you're telling yourself like, everything's going to be okay, like you are strong, you're exactly where you're supposed to be, that's when you can really start to see the changes that happen. Because especially if you say it out loud, your brain is listening to you. You say it out into the world, your brain hears you, the universe hears you, and it's like, oh, I'm being nice to myself. Like, let me turn up the positivity and really start focusing on that. So what are some tips that you would give other women in terms of sort of breaking out of the cycle of like those negative thoughts that, consume us as women?
Just first thing about manifesting, everything is a narrative. So manifesting can be seen as spiritual for some people, and then this is why it's been dismissed by people who are more scientific. But at the same time, science proves that what you put in your brain, and this is what positivity is a fuel, because you can be more successful 22% by 22%. You can heal better. Mm-hmm. They're actually studying people who have survived, cancers that have metastasized. I think it's the word. Metastasized, that's the word. And they try, because they were really positive. They were, I'm going to get out of this. So science proves that as well. And then I think depends what your interpretation is of it. Whether it's just your brain, also the universe. But I think for people who don't believe in the universe side of things, they can go back to science. So I wanted to say about manifestation is not just woo-woo. Just saying by that, I think it's important, because that's why people are often saying, well, I don't want to be going down that route.
Exactly.
Don't be limited in that respect. the two things I got from the book, because I had to get out of extreme anxiety myself. This is why I wrote this book and started BF Media Lounge. And I first started with, so if I had to take two things out of the book that you'd had to do every day, is the first thing is the narratives. Mm-hmm. What narratives you tell yourself. So you had this great example that just because that's how the brain works. The brain cannot tell the difference between what's real and what isn't. It's just what you put in it. So, for example, like something more simple than what you described, it's like, for example, you wake up and the alarm didn't ring. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's going to be one of those days.
Yeah.
Then you spill some coffee on your shirt. This is definitely going to be one of those days.
Yeah.
Try not to do that. Like, okay, how about it's an opportunity? I always look at an opportunity. I'm late. Maybe it's an opportunity to meet some people or to do something else. This is what you can do every day. Like brushing your teeth, you have to be constant. Every day you do it. You brush your teeth, you think positively. And then you try also not to consume negative or toxic things. So when you think about the 65% negativity that's out there, and then you need one negative thought, 6 to be positive, whatever. So make sure you keep that ratio as much as possible. So that's the first thing to help your brain. This is science. This is more than manifesting. We call it just science.
Yeah.
And the second one, because although it's a nice thing to just think, we're not just thoughts. Yeah. We are also feelings. Mm-hmm. And that's the second element that's super important, is because we all have a personal wound. This is something that we as storytellers use a lot to describe our characters, because personal wounds are this thing that happened to you when you're a kid, and that follow you through your life, Yeah. So, and it never goes away. It's your personal wound. The personal wound could also be something that drastic that happened later. For example, you lost a child or whatever. So it could be a mixture of things, but usually it starts from childhood. And so it's basically being aware of your emotions in that. Mm-hmm. And because, again, the brain tries to protect you. Yeah. So if you feel like I'm angry today and I don't know why, the brain will be like, oh, never mind. Yeah. Like if you stop thinking about it, it will go away. Yeah. These are the stuff that, particularly as women, we tend to do that. And what happens? Then your body starts to feel it. Yes. You get like chronic illness. I mean, that's what I used to get. So I'm speaking from experience here. And I think sometimes because we're so scared that what if I inspect this? What if I look into it? Then it's going to hurt more, but it's the opposite. Yeah. So I would think also look at your emotions. I mean, in the book, we study the personal wound, and then you can have exercises to look at it every day. And we use AI as well as to say, oh, why am I feeling this way? And, there's a lot of things that we use. But those two things, because we're not just thoughts, I think it's, from the positivity movement, the thing I find it quite toxic is saying just think positively. But what if your mom died today? You know, something happened. Those two work hand in hand. Yeah. So that's the two things I would say. If you had to do two things, that's what you would be doing. Two things to do. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's so true. We work with a mental health organization, and I've just learned so much just about like the brain function and, how it can affect your body. And I think that there are a lot of times, my husband's going to kill me for this, but there's a lot of times where my husband's like, I got to go to the doctor, like this and this is wrong with me and da-da-da-da. And, like I'm over here like, are you sure you're not just like, stressed out? Maybe you haven't gone outside for a bit, so you're feeling a little like cabin fever. And he's like, no, I have to go to the doctor. And I'm like, I don't know about that. Like there are so many natural, I guess, feelings that occur in our bodies that really do, like you said, chronic illness. And people are so confused sometimes, and they're like, no, I need to go to the doctors and take this medication. It's like, actually, sometimes you need to just try to shift your mindset, do things that can kind of slow you down and have you really sort of like go inwards. And I think that's what a lot of people are afraid of, is like doing that inward work to be like, why am I like this panicked every time I like decide to step outside,
Where does it come from?
Yeah, where does it come from? And I think being able to like explore that and like have the opportunity to fully understand like how you can change that in a natural way. I'm very much about like natural, ways to heal our body. And not just like herbal medicine or anything, but like just paying attention to your mind, paying attention to your heart, like in the sense of like how you're feeling, you know? And a lot of people don't take that extra time to do it.
And I think by saying that, we need also to remove the shame associated with
Yeah.
that. Because the reason for this, like I said, you know, we're taught how to brush our teeth every day, because otherwise our teeth would fall apart eventually.
Yeah.
And
our breath would smell
stink,
and no one would want to come near us.
Exactly. But no one told us how to look after our brains.
Yes.
Which is the central thing for, you know. So, and you remember, like, when your mother, did your mother have to tell you once to brush your teeth? No.
Yeah.
I have to tell you over and over again. Now, like, it becomes a habit.
Yeah.
So with our brains, we're all catching up. Now we're all starting to look after our brains properly once we understand how this works. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, this is work for me. Came really late. Because you understand some of it, like, yes, I should think positive. Yes, I should do that. But it's a bit like, okay, today I'm going to have a good day where I think positive. And then tomorrow I will forget. So it's a bit like, oh, even you're on a diet and you eat like salads one day, and then the rest of the month you eat donuts.
Pizza.
Yeah, stuff like that. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think, and then we feel guilty because, like, oh, we feel shame because you're like, oh, how come, like, I make the same mistakes all the time? We were not taught how to do this.
Yeah.
So I really want to take the shame away from that.
Yeah.
Because we feel we don't know. Yes, it's normal that we don't know. No one told us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And unfortunately, too, you know, as women, we carry so much shame.
Narratives.
And in so many different areas of our lives, like from what we eat to how we are as mothers or partners, how we show up for even like our parents, especially as we're getting older and they're getting older.
And they're getting older, yes.
Yeah, there's all of this shame that's constantly around us. And, you know, I'm afraid to show this part of my body because someone's going to shame me for this. How are you looking to kind of like tackle the shame side of it? Because I know that there's a few different areas, one of which, of course, is like
the penis
sex.
conundrum. Yeah, sex. Yes. With the penis conundrum, actually, it came from that. But I was raised Catholic, but I think I don't have to be raised Catholic to be a woman and feel shame, because we have all those archetypes. You know, the whole...
shame is not just a Catholic thing.
No, because society.
I'm Catholic too.
Yeah, but society is just like good enough to. I mean, but religion plays a part. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
for many
definitely.
People, in my case, for sure. But in general, society in general, you know, does that. I mean, we have the three archetypes. You know, the virgin, the whore, and the crazy one.
Yeah.
So all of that, we have to navigate those ones, because men don't have to do that. You see, because men is like they can be loud and ridiculous and throw things around, and like,
and that's just them being strong and authoritative.
Correct. But with us, it's like we always have to navigate these things. So I started with this short film because I wanted to start with a short film that was a bit different. I didn't want something like that. So it came from a thought I had someday where I had those sexual feelings and I didn't know who to speak to, and how weird they were, or if not. And I just thought to myself, it's funny how we don't talk about it, because the men would be like, oh, look at that bird. But we didn't. And I thought, I need to make this comedy about this. And so it's about a woman who freaks out when she sees the outline of a colleague's penis during a meeting. And this is why it's called a penis conundrum. So it's examining that at work. How do we deal if we feel those feelings at work? You know? And then at home, like, do you dare tell your partner what you want? Because your partner may see a certain way, and you feel like if you say this, they think, oh my God, so you're a bit dirty.
Or like, I'm not good enough for you. And, you know, then they have their own little conundrum.
Of course. Yes, of course, men. I'm hoping to write a book as well. I mean, that's the next thing for men as well, on narratives, because in the book I talk about all the narratives around women, but stuff. So yes, I mean, and beauty is the next one. You're absolutely right, and aging, and that is tied with. Internalized misogyny, the fact that, for example, I see a lot on social media, like women say, oh, this is what 50 looks like, for example. Yeah. And then people are like, oh, you look much older. Yeah. And when I say people, it's 80% women.
Yeah, it really is.
And all of that, we need to stop. We need to live our lives. What is important is our light. You know, this is what important about you. You know, that's what it is. And your beauty, I mean, but if you look back, you were never happy. Yeah, you were happy when you were a child. This is why I said reboot your story, because I went back to being a child. When you're a child, I remember my niece like coming out with a tummy sticking out at the age of 3 going, look at my dreamy body. It's a dream body. It's amazing. But it is. We have dream bodies because it works 24/7 to make us like live.
Yeah, to make sure we're here.
Freaking amazing. Like we should be looking, oh my God, look at this. And that's what I do now. Look at this. Amazing. And actually the first time I did this, I cried because I told my body, I'm so sorry. I abused you so long, for so long. Because we do that. We abuse our body. We inject. I mean, I'm not judging, this is not a thing. This is all pressure. But we starve ourselves. We do all sorts of feelings. And I cried. Oh my God, you work for me 24/7.
Yeah.
And I abused you.
Yeah. That's the thing too. It's like that 24/7 aspect as well. I mean, I think one of the things that like drew me to you and the brand is that from like a perspective on this, like we have very similar perspectives. I'm always very vocal and honest about where I was before I started High on Feminism. And I was one of those women that really struggled with my internalized misogyny, where, I'm living in New York and it's very competitive and I'm going on the train and I see a woman and first thought is like, oh, like she doesn't look good in that outfit, And it's like, after a while I was like, why am I doing this? Like, so I started kind of giving myself like little, like every day, like, for a while, I was like, I'm going to do one good deed a day, And for me, I started small where it was like, if I opened the door for my neighbor, like that was it for me.
That's great.
Nothing, example. I'm not saving lives yet, just doing small things. But that's what I also did. I was like, okay, you know what, Jess? When you get on the subway to go wherever and you see a woman, even if your first thought is a negative one, I want you to pick something about her that you like. And when I started to do that, it really started to change my mindset. So when I started High on Feminism, I was trying to break out of my internalized misogyny and understand too that like when women are together, we're more powerful. And my general ethos is like the reason that men try to divide us so much with competition for men or jobs or, what it means to be a great mother is because they also understand that if women actually like pooled together, we would rule this shit.
Of course. And
so it's so important to be able to change that mindset. And thankfully for me, I was in my like mid-20s when that happened.
Good.
But for some people, it doesn't happen. And
much later.
Sometimes it doesn't happen at all.
Yeah. And I think it's to do with the mother wound as well. I had trauma to do. I mean, many women do and I was a bit scared of women for many. I mean, mine was much later because it was 4 years ago, something like that. 3, 4. And I was scared of women.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when you're scared of something, then you look out for this evidence of it.
Yeah.
And I think also with women, often we say, oh yeah, but women will say, well, the older women, we can't trust women because once I had a boss who was a woman and she's the worst, she was worse. Maybe.
Yeah.
But so it's still looking for evidence because you've had horrible male bosses.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it. But you were not.
Definitely have.
Yeah, for sure. But you were not saying, oh, you see.
Yeah.
That's why men are horrible. I mean, maybe some people do that. But I think we are very tough on women.
Yeah.
The way we look, everything. And then we look for those things, And I think we're like, okay, it could just be their horrible person. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's what we need to look at. Women are not perfect.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's some amazing women. I mean, you're an amazing woman. You help a lot of women.
Thank you.
When I come into Juno House, which is a place, a private members club for women in business, I'm meeting all these incredible women. And now that I am open to this, I'm like, oh my God. This is good. And we have a different perspective. Men are tough,
Yeah.
They're like, oh, this is how you go,
and they're very singular as well.
That's right.
Which is what I loved about coming to Juno. Obviously, we had Liana on for the first episode. And, one of the things that drew me in from the website was it was like collaboration, not competition. And that's something that I have always tried to really like work through, I would say the last like 10 years, because that was my first thought always. Even when I was in college and I had my group of college friends, like there was one girl in my group that I would honestly say was like my competition in the sense of like boys,
Yes, I know.
Her and I
horrible memories.
always liked the same guys. And we were just like totally different in terms of looks and personality, but we always like the same guys. Or it's like, you're in your classes and there's like that really smart girl. And like, I consider myself a very intelligent woman, but there's, other people. And then all of a sudden I'm threatened by her intelligence. And it's like, we can exist in the same playing field. We can exist in the same space and still provide something different because everyone has their own narrative.
Correct. And
Ching,
also like that's another chapter in the book about connection is like whatever connections we need connection as much as we need air and water as part of how we survived, but anything you do with connections gets amplified. So if it's toxic people, well, it gets amplified. But with women, if we do more of that, that gets amplified. And that means that worldwide, then everything gets amplified because at the moment it's male voices. They connect. They used to. They have men's club. They meet a guy like, hey, dude, I'm going to do this, blah, blah, blah. They know how to do this thing, and so that's why their voices are amplified, their power is amplified. So very important point.
Definitely. Well, as obviously we're talking about men and we do understand that, there are a lot of men who are very toxic, but there are also some
amazing,
I'll also say my husband,
like Boris,
who are not. And so you have created Boris, who is BF Media Lounge's mascot, so to speak. So talk to me about Boris and his positive masculinity.
Yeah, for me, it came from the thought about like it's the Baha'i faith says something along the lines that the reason we are not so well in society is because we are like a bird flying with just one wing, which is the masculine one. And often what we do as a sort of reaction, we fly with just the feminist one. So we're always a bit unbalanced,
Okay.
So I feel my idea was like to bring men on board with having positive masculinity, which was Boris. And the idea of Boris is like a beacon of light, but also for us to reconnect with our own masculinity and with men also to be able to come on board that this is, and then doing through a mascot, which is funny and cute. It was a good way to appease as well, like to make us fly. Properly,
And of course, too, eggplants are naturally, phallic symbols.
Yeah, it's
in
pretty
today's
obvious what I'm talking about. Actually, first thing, women are like, what do you mean? Like you do something for women and you have Boris, like a high card, but Boris brings a lot to
that's
this,
what I've learned too about like feminism. I think that for a while, like people saw like feminism as like a binary where it's like you're either all about women or you hate women. And that's not the case. Like feminism isn't just like fuck men, which is what some women tend to go in that direction of, but it's more so just like equal opportunity for women and the same respect that you provide for men and their thoughts and feelings and all of that. Like that's what we want on the female side as well. So I think that there is no way to have feminism without a Boris. Like that's just not reality.
I agree. That was my thought as well. But I think also we need to I understand why we feel everyone is very angry right now. It's just because now, for a long time, women and minorities were not listened to.
Yeah.
So, of course, that makes you angry. If someone punches you, you want to punch them back. You're angry, right?
Yeah.
So that is a normal feeling. So I think I want to acknowledge
exclusion.
It's like, oh, why are people treating me different? Or why do I come to a meeting, for example, if you're a woman, and I go, no, okay. So all of that is legitimate. It's your emotions. But at the same time, sitting and staying with them is affirming this.
Yes,
and it's not freedom for you. So I think this is where we need, like you say, that was my thought as well. But I think it's not acknowledging that it hurts. When people treat you badly, it does hurt. But freedom on the other side is like when you change that narrative and you change all this. Acknowledge this, it hurts. But you know what? I'm going to do something else. I'm not going to worry about this anymore. I'm not going to think about it anymore. So that's
it's the exclusion side for sure. Last season, we had this woman that I know in the cannabis space. Her name's Solange Burnett, and she had not even radical, I would say, because it's just like a it makes sense kind of thought. But in that moment, it was something that I always felt like I wanted to say, but never felt like I had the safety or the space to say it. And so when she said it, I was like, okay, someone else is saying this. And she was kind of saying the same thing. You know, she's a Black woman. She works in the cannabis space. And since, you know, the space has opened up, obviously, especially within the States, there are a lot of Indigenous people coming through, people of color, and they're trying to be like, I'm supporting like Black and brown people. And Solange, while she's Black and she understands the plight and the struggles that we have gone through as Black and brown people, she also understands the importance of that community aspect. Like, we can't just, you know, segregate ourselves all the time. That's not how things are going to get solved. That's not how we're going to make the world a better place. We need to find ways to come together. And people, you know, get upset. And when it's like, oh, we're screaming Black Lives Matter and someone else is saying all lives matter. Yes, in that instance, we're talking about a specific cause, but at the end of the day, like, it is true. All lives do matter. And we should be working together to try to resolve our differences and kind of like remove that hatred that we feel towards each other.
So I'm going to go back to narratives again.
Now.
To do this, to explain also that, because now we're talking about racism, this is one of the isms that we are dealing with. And that was a narrative to start with. And it's a crazy one when you think about it. I mean, why did it start with? It's because like there was some guy who wanted to enslave other people, and people naturally would be like, oh, you can't do that to another human being. Yeah. So they were like, what shall we find? And they found the most ludicrous thing about a person, which is the color of the skin, which I think they were drunk when they decided this, because it's so stupid. When you think about what makes you, it's just the least, you know. And then we've bought into this. And then we reaffirming this every day. And this is where I'm talking about the fine line. It's about like that, yes, acknowledging that, yes, it has an effect on people. Yeah. But at the same time saying like, if we say, oh, this is how it is, and we don't want to be communicating with people from this fake thing that is race, then we affirming this as well. So it's a complicated thing. I mean, I'm not saying I have the solution, but I think if we start looking through the point of narrative, and I think also, the reason that I like to talk about narratives is acknowledging the silliness of it. Yeah. Right. That it's not a thing. The narrative of that is ridiculous to start with, you know. Yeah. But we all bought into that. And of course. You know, and I think, so it's a complicated one, I agree. But it's possible because how our brain works. It could be a thing of the past. Like, you know, in a few years, if we move the right way, we could just be going, can you imagine? Like, people used to say this. You know, you see old films, or you see people smoking in films. Yeah. Like doctors smoking. Yeah. That's the most ridiculous thing. This is what would happen. And this is what I want to be super positive, saying like, this is like the narratives. And we can all change, like you say, communicate. And then, because the beauty of being a human being is
that connection,
the soul connection as well. You know, because
we're not meant to be by ourselves. No. Like, that's not who we are and how we're meant to be.
We're not meant to be scared of each other unless there's a reason to be scared. Like, but a tangible one, not because the color of your skin. You know what I mean? Or because you're in power,
or how you think, or who you love. Like, there's no reason for that. I think that everyone brings something unique to the table in whatever way, shape, or form. Yeah. And it helps build that narrative and make it something amazing.
And the other positive thing, because I always bring positivity, is that, you know, science tells us that there's never been another person like you, and there will never be another person in the history of the world. My God, yes, we need to hear your story. Yeah. All of our stories.
That's what has frustrated me about film, because I love film. I started out in the music industry, so I love film from a music standpoint. One of my like long-term goals is to like score a film. You know, pick all the music for it. Yeah, I would love to. You know, like indie films, like I love music. I love just like, you know, figuring out where the song fits perfectly in that scene.
So important.
And so I've always loved films. And what has been frustrating me the last few years, yeah, sure, it's partially because of the writer's strike and COVID and all this other nonsense, but like they're just remaking all of these films. And it's like there are so many stories out there to be told. Like you really couldn't come up with anything interesting other than Guardians of the Galaxy 15.
I think I forgot who it is, but it's a director said that the trouble happened when we started to become franchise, and where basically corporations took over. Corporations look at algorithm, look at silly things like that.
Yeah.
But this is not how art works, and this is one of the things that many of us now trying to make our own films. This is what BF Media Lounge. I mean, it's also that because, of course, like they look at algorithm and say, "Oh, this works," and then it's women's story stuff, and then that's it. So
action and cars whatever. Blowing up,
and also like what's so depressing is like they were saying to me always, and all of the screenwriters, what we want is thrillers and horror films.
Yeah,
that was it. And when you look at Netflix, so many thrillers, horror films, and documentaries, but oh my God, about
documentaries that are humanity.
And we get addicted because our brain, It's
all those murder shows that they have.
I mean, it's just like donuts. If you put donuts in front of me, I'm going to eat it. So he said, but I enjoy that. You enjoy that, but it affects you.
Yeah.
And then like if I watch a horror film or maybe a documentary about a serial killer, I'll be coming out at night going like,
my cortisol levels rise. Yeah, like oh I can't sleep.
It's so the worst of humanity. I can't live with the worst of humanity on my shoulders when I wake up. It really affects me.
Yeah.
And I think all of us. So yes. But the good thing is I don't think I'm the only one, but I hope like we can bring such a movement like to make this. But I'm hoping also to inspire more women in particular, but also, but creators are starting to do our own things because it's dying out. The whole film industry is dying out. And now they want also to use AI as often as they can.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous because the danger of it, I mean, I use AI. I'm not anti-AI, but if we use it for storytelling, this is the thing that AI will never be able to do because it doesn't have our experiences, right?
Yeah.
And AI is always going to rehash what's already been there. So if we use AI for storytelling, basically it means as a society, we will stop. That's it. We're ending as a society.
Yeah.
So it's a huge deal. But I'm not anti-AI. There's many, many things it's another conversation because I use it in my book as well. It's a good tool, but there are certain things that make it uniquely human and should not be changed. And for the reason you said, because, it's a shame that now I could be watching a film and not remembering what it's about the next day.
Yeah.
But we have like up to the 90s, I'd say we have all the same references, the Silence of the Lambs, whatever, the films we were watching, But now like you say, I watched that, I think, this one, maybe a Tom Cruise film. Maybe it's one of the last ones we put with, Mission Impossible. Oh yes, I know Mission Impossible.
Or like The Matrix is like in everything these days.
Yeah,
like.
But we stop having common references. That's another thing. Like culturally, we're not like linked, but you remember, like we, and I'm hoping to recreate that. And I think as creators, this is the thing. And I would encourage not just myself because there's room for everyone. Yeah. And all the stories that we want to do this, like let's create, let's become more business minded as creators as well.
Absolutely. I love that for sure. And especially, like the idea that there's billions of people on this planet and billions of stories to be told. So
we don't need AI.
Yeah, we have enough going on. So obviously we're here in Barcelona. How long have you been living in Barcelona?
Nearly 8 years.
8 years. Okay. And I know that you were born in France and then you spent some time in the UK. Yeah. What has been your experience, I guess, like first as like a woman in the business space between each of these countries and just like in terms of the types of narratives that maybe you've seen in each of their countries as well?
In terms of like becoming a businesswoman, is that what you mean in that sense?
Like your experience in terms of like maybe support, maybe lack thereof, the types of community. Obviously here, like Juno is one of like the first and only women's co-working space of its kind here. Yeah. But like, what has that been like, as you've kind of traveled throughout and lived in different places?
But for me, I was more like working like in companies before, and then obviously doing my screenwriting because it was difficult. So I had to do both. But I never saw myself as a businesswoman when I was in the UK.
Okay.
I always thought, well, I'm an artist, and
Okay.
I had a poverty mindset to do with artists. I mean, it's a whole conversation I put in a book as well. Like many artists feel like, oh, I don't do it for the money, and then others. That's why we've been exploited as well. It's just that we need to change.
Yes.
But I was going to say also that so it's only when I came to Spain and then when I was stuck, blah blah blah, and this is when I started to do this. So my experience is only here, I would say, from that respect, because my brain wasn't wired.
Yeah, you weren't like, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a CEO.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I can only speak for this time. So, but for me, yes, amazing. I mean, like a year ago, I joined Juno. I had loads of ideas. I was a creative person. I was a bit like, oh my God, what am I doing in this business space? And I was really worried, talking about like, oh my God, what are they going to look at me like, oh, okay. And I said, no, I want to do Boris and films and stuff and positivity. And they were like, oh, that sounds like a lot. No one could just, so, by meeting women and then like I found my business coach there and then and you, like I'm working with you to really help this woman with all these creative ideas, which is like, and then make sure that, so it's channeled and explained properly. Yes.
I think we both work in narratives, like public relations is all about the narrative of a brand. And that's one of the things that I love too. Like I am an amateur writer. I'm writing my first like memoir novel. And it's important to me, I think, to really like I think I have a pretty good knack for like seeing things in other people and helping to really tell those stories. I've always been...
I would agree with that.
Yeah, thank you. I've always been a writer. I was that little kid that had journals for days when I was little. I wrote probably like 10 or 15 different stories when I was younger. There was even that like, I forget the company's name because this was like in the 2000s, but you as a kid were able to write a story and submit it in, and they made it into like a hard bound book for you. And like that was me. Yeah, I did that. That was like a Christmas gift that I got because my mom knew I loved writing. It was like about a rabbit, and like the rabbit was causing trouble for this kid, like it was a really riveting story. But the idea of a narrative is so important. And for me, I lost my mother a few years ago. And, my therapist is always like, write. You should just write. If you like to write, just write. And so that's kind of like what my memoir is about, is sort of like my relationship, my grief with my mom, the complications of my relationship with my mom. And when I was talking about it, there was people that were like, holy shit, like that's your story? Like I had no idea. And I was like, I didn't really think that my life was that interesting. And then when I like looked back at it, I was like, oh, I guess it is like sort of interesting, that trajectory.
But don't you feel also we preserve people? We don't talk about the hard stuff that goes on in our lives.
Yeah.
I think it's because we don't want to be bothering people with it.
Exactly.
So I think a lot, and this is the thing I talk about my dad's death as well in the book. But I think all this grief, and you're right, is very important that we start writing about this, because there are people. I think the only series I could think of, TV series, was the one with Ricky Gervais. I forgot what it's called, but it's about grief. Like he's lost his wife, and then how he's living through the grief.
I think I've seen
it's
that.
It's an amazing, like sort of like a series about grief, and it's really strange because it was the first time I had seen it. I think it was healing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I think really important to talk about these subjects like mental health, emotions, personal wounds. Loads of all of that, super important, because we don't actually, because imagine like people like, oh, that's just too heavy, this one.
Yeah.
Like she's talking about her mother, dead mother, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. Oh, I don't want to hear that.
Oh, I know. People always get like the weirdest, looks on their faces, and they get really like sad. And it's like, yeah, of course it's sad, but I have thankfully through lots of therapy, worked through what that looks like and being able to talk about it. Like, for instance, Casey Berglund is on this season as well. And before I even had her on, I didn't realize that her father had passed away recently. I think it was 2 years recently. And, even that connection there, like, because I was willing to kind of talk about it and bring it up the subject, it gave her that space to talk about it and bring up the subject too. So it's like,
she felt safe.
Yeah, she felt safe, and you feel seen. And, sure, it is hard, but I think if people are willing to tell their narratives, like, there is always going to be someone. Sure, there's a million and one things that happen in our lives that mess us up, but there's that one thing that someone else went through and they're feeling alone and scared and like they're the only person. But then it's like, oh, I just watched this film that talks about this, or I just read this book that talks about this. And now I feel like, not 100%, but I feel a little bit more seen and a little bit more heard and able to give back and, again, create that community that we all need.
I think it's true. And the reason why we don't see so much of that is because the shame associated with it, because you feel, oh my God, if I put myself out there, people are going to come back and maybe do this,
Mm-hmm.
So it's very brave people who do that. So
yeah. Especially when you're talking about like hard things, because you're like, I don't want people to think I'm like sad and depressed and, like, or weak. And unfortunately, that is what like a lot of people are afraid of. They don't want to feel weak or seen as weak. And it's like, that's okay. Like, like I tell everybody, I'm like, I cry every day. And I'm fine with that, because at the end of the day, like, maybe it's not the same thing I'm crying about, but like grief, like, I told Casey this too. I was like, I cry every day about my mom, like, and it's been this year 6 years and it still feels like yesterday. And I still sometimes will wake up in the morning and be like, wow, I wish my mom was here. I wish I could tell her about Juno and all of these things. And when you allow people that space and like you take that chance to be vulnerable, which is what I've always wanted to do, especially after my like 2016 emotional breakdown, I was like, I want to make sure that I'm being more open about my own struggles with whatever it is, because I wish that I had that. And that's sort of like what I like to create, is like things that I wish I had. Like, I wish I would have had a platform like this that supported women. And especially when I first started my company and had the opportunity to talk to other women who were going through similar struggles, like, I didn't. I wish I had people that were more honest and open about like their sadness or their failures even, because especially as an entrepreneur, like, there's a lot of failures when you start out,
And also, talking of narratives, failure is part of the process. It's an essential part of the process.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing about narrative. If you fail, you're bad. But actually failing is part of the process.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, again, I was talking about Tom Cruise, because I think it's just like, in terms of like manifestation and stuff he does, it's just, but he said of like, you have to start doing it, because the sooner you fail, the better, because it's how you learn. I'm like, the sooner I fail, the better. If we change that narrative, it's that the sooner I fail, the better. When it happens, you'll be like, oh, good, I got my first
failed.
one.
Yeah.
Let's celebrate.
Yes. Yeah. My niece is 20. She's learning, about life and everything like that. And she was kind of in a space for a while where she also was like just thinking really negatively about a lot of stuff. And because she's young and a teenager and, she doesn't want to listen to her cool older aunt, cool. She was like rolling her eyes when I was like, you need to start speaking more positively to yourself. You need to start, and she's like, Aunt Jessie, like, yeah, I don't want to do that. That's lame, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but it makes a difference, because if you keep telling yourself you can't, or you're afraid to try something and fail, then where are you going to end up? Like, probably nowhere great. You have to be able to like put yourself out there and like for me, I don't know where I lost the fear gene, but somewhere over the last 10 years, I lost my fear gene, or maybe I just never had it. And I've always just been like,
you found yourself.
Even if it scares me, like, I'm going to do this, and even my team, like when we did our presentation last time, everyone was like, oh my God, I don't know how you do that. I was like, I was nervous the whole time. But when I'm nervous, I just keep talking.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I get through it.
I could tell you were nervous, actually, but you did so well. You were amazing. But I think I started this really nervous as well, to be honest.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't know how to introduce myself properly. So I think, okay, we're going to be honest now.
Yeah.
But it's true. But also I think we said about narratives that keep women down and make us feel that way, like the negativity. But also, and that's another thing, your family. Oftentimes, it would be if you lived in poverty your whole life, for example, when your family before, it's like these narratives that come like, oh, money is hard to come by.
Yes.
All of this is sometimes we need to free ourselves from that.
Yeah.
I felt my family from my mother's side were really negative, and they had all like, oh, things are not good, blah blah. My mom came out and she wasn't. So you feel it's like we all carry a backpack from the family line with whatever narrative it could be money, if you come from poor family or like you can't study this, here we're not clever people in this family. It could be anything. So again, that also can be changed, like you said with your niece, like think positively, and also like that storyline maybe it's not yours. You think negatively, maybe it's probably not your story. It's your narrative that you heard and, sort of assimilate it for yourself.
Definitely. I mean, there's just so much when it comes to the idea of narrative. So I love that you are trying to turn that on its side because, even myself, I've kind of going through this like Instagram break because, everything I follow right now is like from the States, and the States are kind of crazy. And so all I'm seeing is just constant stuff about Diddy this and Trump this, and this is going on over here and this war.
Find some good-looking men to talk about. Like,
something, but like at least. And so I was like, you know what? I need to like change this narrative in my phone because it's like affecting me and it's affecting my work. And for me, I moved here to get away from that shit. So I'm trying to like live positively.
Yeah, I love that you guys are moving here actually, because I said it's a good thing because we have the relaxed stuff and you guys bring the business.
Like that.
It's a perfect
drive.
And women together doing that.
Yes. And that's what I love about this too, because it's like I was saying earlier, like I do try to still work at home, but it's different. When I lived in New York, I had a second bedroom, which was my office. And I, painted it and hung things up and had the whole vibe, and I could work in there all day and be great. Now, I don't have that at my new place. And so that's why I wanted to join Juno. And it's like, like I love that I can come here and bust out like 6-7 hours of work and then know that when I step outside or even while I'm here, it's okay to like rest. It's okay to like grab a glass of wine and sit out in the sun for like 30-40 minutes and just relax, because that's just the lifestyle here. And New York is just go, go, go. And while I like having that mindset when it comes to work, after work, it still feels like go, go, go there. And I want to rest.
I think also that type of mindset is very much made for men.
Mm-hmm.
Men have the energy. They need to be doing things. Do. That's how they need to do this.
Yeah.
We are different. We need to rest. We need to, and
recharge.
This is how or dance, whatever. This is how we get all the stories as well. Like, the solutions for stuff is when we break out and start dance. And stuff. I saw you like early on, like going like this. I'm like, I do that as well.
Sometimes I just be dancing.
Me too. I do that as well. I'm like, this is how you, as women, like often or in the shower or blah blah blah. We need that. I mean, my husband doesn't need that. I can feel that. But me, I'm like, and leave me alone. Like, so I need to do my thing. And as women, we're different. So that mindset is perhaps we need. We can be successful by doing both.
Yeah.
By being super happy, resting, getting a facial sometime later, whatever.
Yeah.
That's us. It's time to get this new narrative that we're doing business differently. It doesn't mean it's lesser. It doesn't mean because you're like, go, go, go. No. that's for them.
Yeah,
Let
it's
them
just
have
different.
that.
I mean, I worked last week here and, I worked for a couple hours and then I went and got a massage upstairs, and it was wonderful. And I came out with like a new back and it felt great.
Yeah.
And it just like, that's just not the mindset in the American like dream, so to speak. It is just like work, 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 work.
It's funny. I mean, it's just another thing. When I came to this, I went to visit a friend in the States like 20 years ago. And his father was working. And I remember my dad wanted to retire at 60, like as much as possible. And then he's like, oh, retire and die. And my dad like, no, retire and live.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think the truth is in between, because you should be able to enjoy your work. My dad didn't enjoy his work, which was a shame.
Yeah.
You don't want to work to 60 to be able to be free. But you can retire. It's fine. You know, you're not going to die. You can have hobbies and things.
You can enjoy yourself. You can travel. And that's just like not in the American mindset. Like that's just not what they teach you. Yeah, that is literally what it is. And I even know some people who, back in the day, maybe like at this point, 15, 20 years ago, aging myself, they were working until like in their 70s, some people, and it's just like, wait, why? Like, why are we spending our entire lives working?
Status.
Yeah. Status, but also like finances. Yeah. There are some people that like just actually can't afford to stop working no matter how old they are.
Yeah.
And that's like the system that, America has created for its residents, for its people. And it's just not sustainable.
There's no safety net for you guys.
No.
That's
especially terrible. For women, for women. It's like you either have a child or you have a career. You can't do both.
I think it's always difficult for women to do that anyway. But if you don't have a safety net or something in place, like you can take some, some maternity leave or whatever. All of that. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to obviously have more of the Penis Conundrum. I read part of the script. I think it's so funny. I love the idea of it. I'm excited for everyone to learn more about Boris and, what he can bring to the table. Where can everybody find you, catch up with you, all those good things?
So basically on social media, it's all bfmedialounge.com. At bfmedialounge, bfmedialounge.com. That's the website. So at bfmedialounge, that's where we find us in all like Instagram, TikTok, we are, and I think Facebook for now. So, but anyway, we will continue to be on BF Media Lounge. And then the website is bfmedialounge.com. So very easy to find us.
Amazing. Yes, I love that. And of course, you guys can always find us at High on Feminism on Instagram. Check out the At Woke Media BK YouTube channel where you can catch past episodes of High Talks, which is our panel discussion series in cannabis. And of course, check out highonfeminism.com. We have some really great leading ladies, cannabis recipes if you want to try them out, product suggestions, all of that good stuff. And Cecile, thank you. Bye.
Bye.